The squirrel was magic!
Hello, this is the Animankai podcast, our third podcast. I'm your host, Mark Aplanup.
And Andrew Sefton.
I don't know why we say our last names.
I don't know, but we just do.
Yeah. Before we get into what this podcast is going to be about, we'll show you off our new figures we brought this week. We also are kind of like in a new area, so we got new posters in the back too. Those are nice. They're Attack on Titan, Yu-Gi-Oh, and
My Hero Academia.
3 quality shows, 2 of which I watch. Andrew watches Yu-Gi-Oh, used to watch it. That's good.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
That's
Yu-Gi-Oh.
good. Nothing wrong with Yu-Gi-Oh. But I'll start with my figures first, because Andrew actually made his figures. These aren't traditional figures that are store-bought. Andrew created them.
I am like Sid from Toy Story.
His heart and soul, they ache.
Yeah, except Sid's are actually creepy. Mine actually
I don't know why
have some kind of relevance.
Yeah. But all 3 of my figures I brought are all from the same series. It's a series I'm going to talk about a little today later. It's Madoka Magica. It's pretty good, even though it might look kind of girly and stuff. Trust me, it's pretty interesting. So this is the first figure I ever got, and her name is Mami. I think her last name's Tomoe. Don't remember. She's got a gun. She can like create more guns and stuff, but this figure doesn't accurately represent her superpowers. But she's kind of a badass, kind of leader type character. She's fun. She's got really good paint job. I like it. It's nice. I like the paint job. Nothing innuendo-y about that. But this is the main character of Madoka Magica, and Madoka Kaname, I believe. Been a while since I watched the series. I need to rewatch it. It's 12 episodes. It's probably one of the series I've rewatched the most, just because of its short runtime. She got a bow and arrow. You actually don't see her dressed like this much in the actual show, believe it or not. So, I'll leave it at that without going into any spoilers. But, and finally, do my last one. This is my favorite Madoka Magic character. Name's Homura, I believe, Akemi. The last names are always rough.
You need to actually learn how to pronounce the names. If you're going to introduce them, you got to know how to pronounce their names.
I got the first names, Homura, Madoka, and Mami, bro.
Okay,
they're good.
Well, that's okay. That's a good start. But
yeah,
you have to know all their names.
She's also got an arrow. I don't know if this camera's still rolling, but yeah, she got an arrow too. And she's great. She's got some time control magic, and she is just fantastic as a character. So, yeah, beautiful hair. Now, Andrew, and also, even though Andrew brought the kaijus, my figures tower over them, so they're the true kaijus.
I mentioned this earlier. They are not supposed to be kaijus, these particular monsters. They were just creatures that I made.
We were joking about that. But...
Yes, I know.
All right, show off your awesome creations, Andrew.
This is actually one of the very first ones that I did ever make. This is Skelosaurus. He's not that intricate compared to everything else. It's just a simple old beat to crap up rubber T-Rex that
beat the crap up.
Well, because I had him for years, and eventually, just like through whatever happened, one of his feet started to fall off.
Oh no!
So it's like, okay,
he's a zombie dinosaur.
Yeah, pretty much. So then I was just like, okay, try to just mess around with him, and I had an old Zoid that had glow-in-the-dark pieces to it from an actual Velociraptor. And just decided, you know what, let's just try to make his legs sturdy, so I put the legs on him just to get him to hold himself up.
Fusion.
And then it's like, why not try to go all out? So it took me a year to basically find all of his damn pieces, and put him back together into this guy. And in pitch blackness, he actually glows, and all you see is his skeleton.
Which is pretty legendary.
Yes. Which was the start of all the craziness. And then a few of these other ones.
Do you want me to hold them for you, or you're...
Yeah, they can just sit.
I mean, to hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay, cool.
This one just, hence the way it looks, it's just a fire and ice dragon. And that's one of my more recent ones. I did that just because the body of it is actually from a Yu-Gi-Oh monster. It's a 2-headed King Rex creature. And I just thought, you know what, why not try to have some fun with it? So, using as minimalist pieces as possible on him, I just tried to make him look like some kind of fire and ice dragon to go with polar opposites. Because fire melts ice, and when ice melts, it becomes water, which puts out fire.
Kind of like our bro Todoroki back there.
Kind of, yeah, except they don't, except these two actually kind of contradict each other because these two don't so much get along. It's like they're constantly trying to actually kill each other. Except when they're actually compared to fighting something, then they will team up. Which it does create a lot of good, because when their beams actually hit, they create super heated steam that's enough to melt flesh.
See, what's cooler about his figures is his figures actually have like a in-depth,
create their own
story for them.
backstories
So that's
for them.
pretty awesome. I just have to talk about the anime backstory. I don't get to be all creative like that.
This one, very iffy on the name, but I guess I can go with Manta, or, crap, what the hell, I had it. Manta Scorpio, I guess, because he's a praying mantis and a scorpion-type fly creature.
Or the filmers name the butt claw.
Oh, shut up. He's actually not supposed to be, in reality, he's not that big. He's only maybe about the size of a turkey.
He really isn't that big.
Shut up. I meant, like, my things don't necessarily have to be kaiju size, they just have to be interesting enough. He's only about the size of a turkey, but the stinger on his tail is pointed enough to be able to down anything with one shot, no matter what it actually is.
Even Godzilla?
Not something that big. It has to be actual, like an actual organic creatured life. This guy's origin is he is an undiscovered species of creature that basically just lives deep underground. And he got into a conflict with another creature that I did not bring him, which is supposed to be like his species' enemy, which is why he lost his claws and the scratch on his face. So that one's kind of a warrior type.
He's just a badass.
And then we got Steel Shell.
Sorry about that.
Ironically enough, the only steel part of him is on his head. But yeah, he's just another kind of... He was kind of a man-made creation creature. Like, somebody was just experimenting around. They wanted to create just kind of a ultimate weapon-type defense war creature. And when they did that, the metal part of his head was supposed to hold a cybernetic brain, and just like if people have seen the Terminator, it got too smart and realized, why should I take orders?
Well, I can just destroy everything.
Honestly, he does not like to destroy.
What?
He's actually kind of a passive creature.
He looks so evil.
He does look it, but that's kind of the thing that he likes. He likes to be left alone.
Oh.
So his terrifying look kind of goes into that of him not being messed with. Things do still mess with him, but he can usually just pull his body inside his shell, and his head just sits up out top, which cannot be harmed because it's harder than steel, and he just is well protected. So those are just a couple of my things that I brought, just some of my handmade mutations.
Yeah, you got a lot more too, so you can bring different set every time. If you want to keep showing off your stuff.
Yeah, I can bring a few different sets each time.
Yeah. He's also, like, made his own versions of the nine-tailed beasts from Naruto.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. But he's working on them, and they're pretty accurate and pretty dang cool.
Might bring one or two of those up sometime.
Yeah,
they're just very fragile.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as what we're talking about today, we're going to be talking about the cliches of anime, manga, and kaiju films and whatnot. And we're going to be talking about if they're a positive or a negative overall. We're also going to be talking about, like, both plot and character cliches, I guess you would call it. But yeah, today we're going to be starting with Andrew and what he finds to be cliched in certain kaiju films. So, what do you think?
Well, for starters, like with most kaiju movies, it's always the military.
Always.
They always have to try to get involved, and they never do any good. In fact, they always just cause more harm than they ever do good.
That's true.
They never can hurt the monsters. They never can even steer them. It's just attack, do nothing, piss off the monster, destroy more of the city, or
take up undeserved screen time.
And undisturbed screen time. Or, in some cases, they attack the monster with a big weapon, and the monster just deflects it, and boom, you destroyed half of Tokyo on your own.
If they try to, like, use nuclear weapons on Godzilla, he just absorbs it and gets
stronger.
He
just absorbs it and gets stronger, and it's just like, well, what the crap are we going to do now? That's our strongest defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Which does not work.
No.
There's a couple times where kind of fits into that of, like, kaijus being taken down by the military, but they are very rare.
on the new Godzilla Planet movie, aren't they humans more capable with their technology and stuff? But they still don't actually achieve much, I'm sure. But aren't they a bit more?
Their weaponry is a lot more sophisticated because in Godzilla Monster Planet, Earth is visited by 2 different alien races who decide to be like, okay, we can see that you've been dealing with all these kind of monsters and kaijus, and you're not having very much luck. But then they see that Godzilla showed up. It's like, okay, you guys are fucked, so we will help you. So they come up with all kinds of weaponry. They have futuristic tech and try to fend him off. Does not work. He's actually immune to everything. So he actually drives them off of the Earth. And they come back, and their weaponry has still been evolving, so they come back, they're fighting, they're dealing with all this other kind of crazy crap.
Oh.
And they actually do manage to do some damage. Not enough to actually really hurt Godzilla, but enough to kind of steer him.
Oh, yeah.
Because their weaponry is, instead of using like giant jets, which a lot of times does not work because after 60 years, Godzilla's gotten pretty good at target practice.
Even though it's a different Godzilla on Godzilla Planet. It's not the same Godzilla, right?
No, it's actually the same Godzilla.
Oh, so that's something new I didn't know.
He's 20,000 years old. He's the same one that drove humanity off of Earth. And he still survived and just grew.
I thought it was like... Well, yeah, you said like plant, so I thought it was like a completely new life form.
Nope, same Godzilla.
So
but I was actually meaning some of the older Godzilla movies. Like, the couple of the... Like, there's 2002 and a 2003 one, which is basically Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. Which in both cases, the military always tries to just intervene and try to slow him down at least, which does not cause any kind of damage.
Yeah.
And the jets, I love the jets with it because like they're attacking him from all kinds of different directions, and he's just like, yep, nope, not dealing with this. Just turns around. He doesn't even waste his energy, just fires, boom,
Done.
fires, boom, fires, boom. He hits them without even having to move his head to hit. It's just, okay, you're going to go this way, and you are dead.
So they seem to learn to drive better.
Or just, yeah, or learn to be more unpredictable.
Yeah, really.
But it's interesting, though, because in Tokyo SOS, they actually do manage to actually kind of harm him.
Huh.
Because they actually capitalized on an injury that he sustained from the first one fighting Mechagodzilla, where he had a huge gaping injury in his chest. So, and when it kind of Tokyo SOS is the sequel, kind of. So he comes back. They confirm that the injury is not fully healed, so they constantly are, instead of just aiming for any part of his body like they normally do, they aim for his chest, which does actually seem to cause him some pain, which you'd think would be a good thing, but it just pisses him off.
Of course. He's Godzilla.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
But it's just funny, because they're always attacking him. They think it's like, oh yeah, it's like after all these years of us attacking him, maybe now we'll finally hurt him.
Now, am I mistaken, but weren't the military actually effective in Shin Godzilla? That was like the best they ever did, right? They actually put him in like a little mini coma. He was kind of just evolving, but they kind of forced him into that state because he wore out the energy trying to fight them.
Yeah, they actually...
So that's actually pretty impressive for a military and a kaiju movie.
Yeah, but that's actually considering that it wasn't the Japanese military that actually
yeah,
did it.
That's right. The U.S. military is not a cliche in Godzilla.
Yeah, because they very rarely ever show up, but in Shin, they actually did. They dropped, what was it, some kind of bunker buster bomb on him?
They were just carpet bombing the crap out of Godzilla. I don't remember exactly what the bombs were, but they wouldn't stop.
Yeah, but the Japanese military firing, they're literally just like shooting a bullet at a metal door. It's just deflecting off of him. U.S. comes, drops one bomb on him, and they actually make him bleed and destroy some of the spines on his back. So it's just like...
So that's like the best the military's ever done in Godzilla then, right? Or, besides maybe Godzilla Planet. Or one I'm not familiar with.
There's a couple times where they've done that, but there's one where they actually... That's pretty much the one where they actually did the most significant damage to him, where it pissed him off so much that he actually went and destroyed half of Tokyo in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
But the other one that was interesting, which they did end up having to take the effectiveness of from after a monster already did some of the damage, is Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Long ass
That is a title?
That is the title.
Jesus Christ.
where, which actually I like that version of Godzilla because he's not some kind of monster that was around since prehistoric days. This monster of this version of him was actually created from the millions of souls that were actually killed during the Hiroshima bombing.
Okay.
They had so much hatred and everything that they actually formed Godzilla. And granted, it's kind of weird that they would take out their vengeance on their home country.
But you know,
but he did.
He didn't have anywhere else to go to wreak havoc.
Well, he could have, but they actually make that joke. They're like, why couldn't he just pick on some other country? But it's just funny because there's been a few other indications where Godzilla has been evil. This one, he was pure evil. I know it's not so much saying for other stuff, but his eyes were pure white. He had like vampiric fangs, and he just did not give a crap about anything. If something was in his way, it's gone.
They're done.
Whether it's people, military, monsters, or even a mountain. He literally kicks his way through a mountain.
Dude, I just went around. That's a lot of effort.
Well, there was a monster coming at him from the other side of it, so he's like, yeah, I'm not walking around this.
That's fair.
He did that, but he also killed hundreds of people at a volcanic hot springs that saw the other monsters. Like, oh, look, people. Yeah, time for you to die. But yeah, with all that, they end up fighting Ghidorah after Godzilla's already killed the first monster, Baragon, obliterated Mothra, and that's the only incarnation where Ghidorah is actually a good guy.
Huh.
Ghidorah is always Godzilla's most powerful enemy and is always enough to almost kill him. So they actually made Ghidorah a good guy since Godzilla was evil.
Mm-hmm.
Which was still pretty cool because Ghidorah actually managed to inflict a wound on Godzilla's neck. So they're like, military in that movie developed some kind of for earthquake catastrophes, like people get buried.
Mm-hmm.
It's a drill that's powerful enough to drill through the ground to find people. So a very useful invention. They try to use it on Godzilla. They fire a few times at him, and they start drilling into him, yes, but the metal strains and they explode because they can't penetrate his skin. But after they realize that Godzilla has an injury on his shoulder, they try to get one of those weapons inside him to fire from the inside and see if they can hurt him from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Or that wasn't actually their initial intention. They just tried to fire it into his wound. But after fighting Ghidorah for the second time in the movie, which he gets obliterated again.
Destroyed.
Way more than usual. Normally Ghidorah just gets beaten around, maybe loses a head. No, this time he got completely disintegrated. And so there's one of those drills on a sub. They try to drill it in at him, and Godzilla eats the sub. Just swallows it whole. Doesn't even flinch.
Like he was at Subway.
Ah,
I'm sorry.
Stupid joke, but whatever. Then they fire the weapon, and it actually does bore through his chest, or from his shoulder. He sees people on the ground. That one was the weird one, because Godzilla never pays attention to people. But in that one, a woman's screams make him focus his energy, and he annihilated a whole town just because he saw people.
My goodness.
Godzilla in that movie does not like people.
Obviously.
He sees two people on the shore, and he's like, okay, you're going down. Goes to fire. The very interesting way of doing it. He fires, but instead of his mouth, the beam comes out of the wound in his shoulder. Which is
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Shin Godzilla move almost.
Kind of. But then he's like, it only keeps going for as long as he has his mouth open. He closes his mouth, and it stops. And he's like, okay, I'm going to try again. And does the same thing again. This time, though, it won't stop. Okay. He can't get it to stop coming out of his shoulder. So he's screaming, he's in pain, falls back into the ocean. That time, it does stop after a while. The sub actually comes through the wound and tries to get away.
That's a risky maneuver.
Well, the beam had stopped.
Okay.
So he was just, and plus Godzilla was kind of almost half unconscious. He tries to get away, and he tries to fire the beam again, which that time there's a huge-ass explosion. Mm-hmm. And then they have all the radar that can sense him. Just gone. Godzilla's just gone.
Just done.
And then the whole end of the movie led up to a lot of people thinking that Godzilla is immortal. Because it shows his heart at the bottom of the ocean still beating. Without a body. Which leads, because we know Godzilla can regenerate, but it kind of shows that he can regenerate from, having nothing. So that is like almost the one time, other than
Best
the
regeneration feat.
other than the original Godzilla of them killing him off with the oxygen destroyer. That is the only time that mankind has actually done significant damage to Godzilla.
So that's the best military's ever done.
Yeah.
At least, even though the military always intervenes, at least it seems like they keep it varied. They got a giant drill. They got all these different techs they try to use. They don't come in with the same strategy every time. So that's good.
They always use. They create they use different weaponry.
Change but that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but it's always jets, tanks, and the maser cannons.
The jets and tanks are the things that never work, but then they have to get more creative in every movie. I'm assuming.
The maser cannons never do much damage to him either, but
are those just like laser beams?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, they don't do that much damage to him either, but those are just those kind of cliches for that, and then others is just. At least for me, I don't know if it counts as a cliche, but like introducing a monster from something and then never seeing it again.
Ah, well, yeah. I guess you could call that a cliche.
Because they did that in, I think it came out either a little before, I think it actually did come out before Godzilla. It's a monster called Varan.
Mm-hmm.
I love the design of this thing. It's like a flying lizard type thing. It has like a membrane that sprouts between its arms and legs, but it had its own solo movie called Varan the Unbelievable, to where people literally would die just by looking at him because he was so terrifying. Yeah. But they never showed him again. Like, he had that one film, and then he had slight cameos in other Godzilla movies. Never made a sound, never roared, never did any fighting. He was just, okay, he's just here.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, because he's a very interesting kaiju. But yeah, those are just some of my cliche type things.
But the fact that like monsters always seem to come from space, is that true? That seems like that's how it seems to me. But maybe I'm just not. Maybe I just haven't watched enough Godzilla movies.
Most of them are Earthbound, but there's at least 3 and possibly 4 that come from space.
Huh. I thought there was more than that, man. See, this is my limited knowledge coming into play here.
Okay, maybe 5.
Okay.
Because I guess I did forget about 1. One is the most infamous one, King Ghidorah.
Oh, yeah, I knew that for sure.
King Ghidorah is a space dragon.
And he's a mecha space dragon.
Yeah, he does eventually, but only after Godzilla basically destroys him. But the origin of Ghidorah is interesting for all that because, unlike just like, oh, hey, it's a space monster coming from space to come down and attack Earth, he actually has a purpose for doing that. Because Ghidorah apparently travels from solar systems to solar systems, just devouring everything. He actually turned Mars from a planet like Earth into what it is today.
Oh, dang.
So yeah, King Ghidorah is... Yeah, that's why Mars is uninhabitable, because Ghidorah found it.
Who knew?
And then and I like that because he's space, because on Earth, where could a gigantic 3-headed dragon hide?
That's a good point, yeah. I mean, no, that cliche makes sense, so...
And then Gigan is another alien race type monster that they built to kind of as a protector, but since their galaxy, the only thing they ever had to fight off against was King Ghidorah, and he kind of just does whatever he wants to do, they couldn't really deal with him, and eventually some people found out how to control Ghidorah, so they never had to worry about it.
Huh.
But Gigan's another space beast, and the first time he's introduced, he actually teams up with Ghidorah to fight Godzilla.
So the space team just stays together.
Pretty much.
Come from the same planet secretly.
No, they actually don't come from the same planet. But it's cool seeing them fly through space because they can fly through just as their normal monster forms, or they actually have alternate forms.
Yeah, I was reading about that, because like that. Remember that like Versus Wiki where I look up all the stats of the characters? Mm-hmm. It's a fun website. It's not official or anything, but there was like King Ghidorah in this form is like light speed because he traveled from this planet to this planet, but when he's on the planet, he's a lot slower. So
well, it's not so much that. It's like when he flies just like in his normal 3-headed dragon form, I think it says that he can fly at like, oh crap, I don't know. Like, I think he flies at like maybe Mach 15 or 20 or something like that.
Really dang fast.
Yeah, and yet he's still not the fastest kaiju. But in space, he can fly a little bit faster, but he has a meteorite form that he goes into.
That's what it was.
Yeah, which he uses to travel between solar systems and galaxies, which he can... it's still very unconfirmed exactly how fast he can fly in his meteorite form. And Gigan's kind of the same way. He has a giant diamond that he flies through space in. which don't really understand why that, because Gigan doesn't really breathe. Gigan's a cyborg in either variation, the 73 version where he shows up or the friggin' 2004 version when he shows up again. Either way, he's a cyborg. Then there's Orga, who is a true alien that crashed on Earth. Basically, in the movie, he's almost the cause that they say is the reason the dinosaurs went extinct.
So they just use all these monsters as an excuse for historical events.
Pretty much. But he crash lands in a ship. And for 65 million years, he's laid at the bottom of the ocean in his ship. And through some means, I need to watch it again because I can't remember exactly what wakes him up. But he ends up being awake and trying to find something that he can use to adapt to Earth's atmosphere, because he can't come out of his ship without it. So he finds Godzilla, and he's like, okay, this thing could work for me, but this thing is also dangerous, so I'm going to use some of its power, and I'm also going to kill it.
Killed it.
Because the first time he meets him, he's like, he examines Godzilla, he has like ability to like X-ray vision type thing, he goes through and actually can see Godzilla's cells, and he's like, okay, this could work, but immediately upon looking at his X-ray type thing, lowers down and just out of nowhere blasts Godzilla, sends him flying into a building. Okay. Godzilla just gets like, what the crap just happened to me? And proceeds to try to fight him. And eventually he ends up dropping a huge skyscraper on Godzilla and basically absorbs Godzilla's cellular division type thing. Okay. And comes out of his ship in two different forms. The first form, his head looks exactly like his ship, and he has tendrilled legs.
Which sounds pretty badass.
Kind of, yeah. But then, because he's kind of like a... what kind of alien to describe it? He's like a...
Alien?
No, very... Almost looks like you could kill him easily. Like, he has, like, no skin texture.
Oh, okay.
And he starts using Godzilla's DNA, and it mutates him and turns him into Orga, which was a very interesting kaiju. And apparently, since he can't really control the cellular division that he has, it's on overload. So every time Godzilla hits him, his body regenerates almost instantaneously, but it doesn't heal up perfectly. Like it'll stop the wound, but you can still see that he got shot. And eventually, he does something that no other monster really has ever tried to do. He tries to eat Godzilla.
Dang.
Like, literally tries to eat him.
So he's huge.
Actually,
or does his
no.
mouth just expand?
Yeah, like, he looks like
like a snake.
Kind of. Because Orga normally has a regular mouth, but then, like, he almost, like, splits his entire, like, shoulders and opens his mouth so wide and has, like, a flower-esque thing inside him that he tries to, like, suction, and he tries to crawl up and eat Godzilla. Gets about halfway through him before Godzilla just kind of obliterates him from the inside.
Don't try that on Godzilla.
Yeah, don't try
it. It never works in every single movie.
And then the other one is...
There's a cliche right there. Monsters trying to eat Godzilla and then getting blasted from the inside and dying.
Orga's the only one that ever tried to eat him.
Oh, well, I should say... Getting blasted inside your body is a cliche then, because I remember in the 2000 and... what was it? The one where he fought the Mutos.
Yeah.
Where he just like opens their mouth and just
yeah.
So yeah, just getting shot through the dang throat.
He's done that. He's done that a couple of times, but usually only.
I guess not a cliche then, just it's only been a couple times.
Well, every time that it happens, it's usually yes. It's always well. There's Orga, which it completely like went through him and took the top of his head off. Then there's Biolante, which is the other kind of space one. She's actually an Earth-based kind of kaiju.
I would think Biolante would be Earth-based and she's a plant.
But that's the thing. Biolante is categorized as immortal.
But isn't.
Kinda she is. Because Godzilla actually killed her twice, and she did not die. But each time, like, she can turn into, like, spores and travel around, and at the end of the movie, she decides to live in space. So I don't know if that technically makes her a space monster. She just kind of lives, like, just outside the ozone layer of Earth.
We'll counter just so I have a point.
And, yeah, but she... I don't know if she technically tried to eat Godzilla, but she did open her mouth, and Godzilla actually seemed to almost throw his head into her mouth and shot her a few times in her mouth.
That's kinky.
Godzilla does have a tendency of doing that. Like, close-range fire attacks usually do enough to take down his enemies.
I see.
Whether or not it completely blows their heads off, or just injures them like it did with Biollante, which kind of seemed like it blew her brains out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, the final one that actually is is the reason why Biollante even exists, or why this creature even exists is because of Biollante, is Space Godzilla.
Oh, of course.
Because he's
obviously from space, because he has the name Space in his name.
Well, yeah. Because
word space,
Biollante was flying through space, and some of her spores or whatever, since they have the exact DNA of Godzilla, which just mixed with a plant, some of her DNA got like sucked through like a black hole, and got sped up again through a white hole, all kinds of crap like that. Space Godzilla's origin is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting hit by meteorites formed Space Godzilla, which categorized is the heaviest kaiju ever. Like, I think they say that in his like crystalline space form, he weighs like 720 million tons.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's heavy as hell.
So there's a decent portion of Godzilla, I guess, enemies that are from space, but not. I guess I don't know if it'd be a large enough portion to call it a cliche, but
yeah, not really a cliche.
That's fair. But you got any more for kaiju or anything like that, or?
Not so much, because it's like there's not a whole lot of cliches for kaiju movies except for like military and just people like trying to summon a monster to fight him. It's like it's either the military or a monster.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's
this goes for other monster movies besides Godzilla too, I'm sure.
Yeah, like I guess another thing kind of is the '98 Godzilla movie or Zilla.
Oh, God,
like
Godzilla.
That one actually was still an interesting take. It kind of took away from a lot of cliches because he.
Well, yeah, they basically didn't even make him do a kaiju. He was just a giant dinosaur at that point, but
he's still a kaiju.
Yeah.
He's just a very low categorized kaiju.
Okay.
But yeah, so everything about him, one, was not Godzilla. Everything about that beast was nothing to do with Godzilla, but if they would have just made it like, called it like Reptilian or Zilla, that movie would not be disgraced so much.
It is.
They tried to call it Godzilla, and it just bombed like no other. But I will say, in its defense, I do love his design.
No, he looks cool.
The design is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I can't think of any cliches so much kaiju related. They're other than military and monsters.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, I guess for anime, there's a good portion. I'll start with just like the normal visual cliches without going into any like genre specific cliches, because there's quite a few of those. But just like the giant anime eyes, you know, the most common thing when you think of anime, just the eyes, which I believe it was the creator of Astro Boy said it, because that was one of like I don't remember if Astro Boy was a manga or
yeah,
not.
that's right, it was.
Was it?
I think so.
But he was one of the first ones who like popularized just what anime would be. There was plenty of shows before that, but that was the one that made it pop. But he said the eyes are like, you know, the window into the soul, so he just wanted to make them as big as possible to yeah, exactly. Sparkly. To let everyone be able to understand the character's emotions really well, I guess. Which makes sense. I think they said he kind of took inspiration from some like American shows at that point. Obviously it wasn't Pixar or anything, but some old Disney cartoons and stuff, I think is where he got the big-eyed thing from.
Probably.
My knowledge on that whole subject isn't very very high. But yeah, it was the Astro Boy guy who coined the giant eyeballs that everybody loves so much. But yeah. And then I guess another big just general cliche is just the overreactions for characters, their expressions just going insane. And it's become like, you know, so well known nowadays, just like all these exaggerated expressions that they've got, you know, everyone loves their emojis. But so you look at certain emojis and they're obviously anime inspired. You got like this one, you know, the face, he's looking down and he has a sweat drop forming on his head. And he's even got like the anime you looking eyes. Yeah,
they're just kind of like just, oh, or the, like kind of like the parenthesis type eyes that are just like squint in, just like, eh.
Yeah, so, but it's just, I guess something like we were talking about, you know, things that would turn off casual fans. That'd probably be one of them, just the over-exaggeration of the expressions and everything. People think it's weird. But I think it's cool. I like it.
It's funny.
Yeah. But that's kind of on the visual aspect there. Like, from an audio perspective, there's not many cliches I can think of, but I do have one example. And that is whenever something is going down in an anime. I'll give you one of my recommendations I'm going to talk about later is One Punch Man.
Yeah.
But during the final battle of One Punch Man, for example, you play the opening song, man.
Yep.
There's just, the cliche is like, whenever something epic's going on, you gotta play the intro song or the outro song to go along with it. It makes it a really badass cliffhanger, or just makes fights 10 times more epic. I don't know what it is, but they always time it with like the punches, and it's cool. It's just cool. Yeah. And I like it. It's a good cliche. Yeah, we also gotta talk about if the cliches are good or bad. I mean, in general. So, for that, it's a good cliche. As far as the appearance stuff goes, I mean, can't really call that a bad cliche, I would say, but but yeah, I guess going into more specifics with genres, because I didn't have too much for general cliches. Let's go for like the shonen action kind of genre first, because I'm an action tard, and everyone should know that. I'll obviously always bring it back to action. So the first one is our first really, really negative cliche, I would say. And that's the power of friendship, Andrew.
Yeah.
Don't you love friendship?
Oh, God,
Me and Andrew are friends. So if I were in an anime and I was about to get my ass kicked by a giant alien, you know what I would do? I'd have a flashback to me and Andrew this
Friendship
morning.
flashbacks.
Having a good time, drinking our coffee. And I would say, or in the flashback,
Yeah.
or I don't know, I guess in real life, in the current time,
Yeah.
I would just flash back and be like, that coffee we had together was so important. My friends, if I die now, I won't be able to have that same coffee tomorrow. So, for Andrew...
Epic power up!
just destroy everything. So, for friendship power-ups and friendship-related things, it can be done well, and it can be done like utter dog shit. And the differing fact there, I would say, would be when it's done terribly, would be, for example, in a show like Fairy Tail, which I will constantly rag on. Andrew wants to start it at some point. I advise him against it. The filmer of this advises him
Possibly
against
start
it. It's got some redeeming factors. If there's any Fairy Tail fans out here watching this, I'm sorry for offending you, but it's the truth. In my opinion, I guess, but it's the truth. So the problem with their friendship, the friendship aspect of Fairy Tail is what I just gave an example of. Characters literally get power-ups from thinking about their friends. They are in a dire situation. There's a character named Urza, Scarlet, red-haired girl. She's overpowered beyond imagination. There's a line in the series which is, she did it because she's Urza, explaining how she won a fight. And which is on the writing scale. But yes. There was a fight where she fought this dude in a forest, and she has this armor that she equips, and it's her most, like, I guess offensive heavy armor. She just has these bandages and like these big red pants. It looks cool. Character designs in Fairy Tail are good. I'll give it that. But so it gives her all these offensive powers, or offensive. Yeah, offensive.
Yeah, offensive.
I was like offensive. No, but and she was fighting this dude with fire powers, and he was shooting fire all over the place. And she's like, "Oh no! With this current armor, like I can strike him down, but if he hits me once, I'm done because there's some price I have to pay for this armor." And then at the end of the fight, what happens is the guy shoots this giant blast of fire at Urza, and she runs forward, jumps through the fire, and she's like, "For Fairy Tail!" And then all the Fairy Tail, like all the fire, like becomes images of Fairy Tail's members' faces. And then she like charges right through the fire and slashes them and beats them. And I'm like, well, that just shit on everything that was just established about this armor.
That just happened.
Yeah, that just happened. But anyway, I guess the friendship cliche can be done okay if you just think about your friends and they are actually contributing to what's going on. Like, if you're like, oh, my friends have got my back, and then they go, like, pull a switch and, like, open up a gate for you to walk through, then it's like, yeah, that's fine. But if they're not directly, magically making you stronger, then I guess it's not a huge issue. But more on this genre would be the good old power-up.
Yeah.
Power-up. Yes. For episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Popularized by shows like Dragon Ball Z, obviously.
10 episodes to fire an attack.
Yeah. It was kind of a way to go back. We were talking about fillers last week. It was another way for them to stall for the manga to get ahead of time. They just had Goku scream forever. In the manga, it was only like a couple panels, I believe, for like just mountains getting destroyed and lakes going crazy and everything like that. But even though it was kind of technically filler, it left a big impact in the anime industry, I would say, since I'm sure you can think of plenty of examples of shows where characters just scream and then their energy goes up and they get stronger, and yeah. I mean it's just been a staple of the genre since then. So it's not so much I wouldn't call it a negative cliche. It's just kind of a slightly overdone one.
Yeah.
And
kind of a redundant cliche.
Yeah, kind of eats up screen time occasionally. Good fun. And one more on this genre would be just the "this isn't my final form" cliche, where you beat a bad guy, and then you think you've done it, and then the thing that actually will tell you if this cliche is about to happen is when one of the side characters says, "He did it! He finally beat him!"
Jinxing the crap out of you.
As soon as you hear that, the music's gonna get really dramatic, and they're gonna look over, and you're gonna hear ha 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 ha, and get up and oh god, and then it'll happen 3 more times before the fight ends, and it's a pretty bad cliche, to be honest. It shouldn't happen. I mean, power-ups are fine and all, but all this false tension and false build-up and all that just ruins things. I guess I wasn't completely done with the genre, I suppose. But as far as characters go in action series, one big cliche is it seems like 90% of protagonists in action battle shonen series are heavy eaters. Just
yeah,
just like Luffy, Naruto. So many I could think of. Natsu. Sure, you've seen plenty of shows where the main character is just a damn glutton.
Yeah.
Shokugeki no Soma's a little bit different because it's an entire show about cooking, so if he's not a glutton, then we have a problem.
Well, that's actually the funny thing, though. He doesn't actually eat hardly any of the food. He tastes the stuff that everybody makes, but he doesn't necessarily eat it himself. Oh. He basically is just making all the food. He'll taste it himself, but it's just okay, I'm just making this for everybody else. It's
So that's hilarious then, because we got an entire show about cooking, and the main character doesn't even eat, but in all these other shows they do. I guess another show about cooking is called Toriko. It started really good, got kind of bad later, but I still enjoyed my time with it mostly. but the main character named Toriko is a huge eater. He eats things 50 times his size, but that's the whole point of the damn series. Eating gives you power-ups in Toriko, so and on the character end, another one is just the main character constantly shouting their goals. Yeah. I'm gonna be Hokage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be king of the pirates. I'm gonna be the best hunter in the world. I'm gonna be the #1 hero. Although I think Izuku doesn't want to be the #1 hero. He just wants to be a hero.
Yeah. It just turns out that he's going to be the #1 hero.
Which I think makes Izuku a little better because he's not sitting there being like, everyone has to suck and I have to be #1. He just wants to be a hero.
That's more of Bakugo.
Yeah, it's more admirable for Izuku.
Yeah, I just mean the whole being #1 thing. That's Bakugo.
So yeah. I guess the cliche moves on to Bakugo there, but he's not the protagonist, so it makes it a little bit different. And he's a jerk and an asshole, so
comes off more as a villain than he does a hero.
So that kind of just maybe the My Hero Academia writer is trying to say something. He's trying portraying Bakugo as all the other main shonen protagonists and saying that they all suck. That's a deep message right there.
That would be. That'd be an interesting thing that not a lot of shows have done.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that about does it for action. I guess for comedy, I would say the #1 cliche, and this is another thing that turns off casual fans, is just constant yelling. The Japanese obviously think yelling is hilarious. So when a joke isn't all that funny, they just scream it, and then, and sometimes it works.
Oh,
to be clear, yelling can be hilarious, but it can also get kind of overdone.
Depending on if it's every sentence that they say is a yelling event.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when it's somebody's just normally talking, and then they're talking back to the person just normal, and all of a sudden just somebody says something offensive or something. They're just why would you be saying this? The other character's just well, why would you be saying that? It just kind of goes back and forth, and somebody just breaks and he's like, "Why are you doing this?" It's just like, "Sorry."
I hate to constantly bring up Gintama, but there's this character who who's a swordsmith, and he actually has a reason for why he constantly yells, because he always hit the iron,
Probably almost deaf.
and it made him almost deaf, so he yells constantly. But it's actually there's a story reason for that, for his character. So that's not too bad. Another cliche, but this is kind of just artistic styling choice, but I'd still say it's a cliche just from how much it happens. Is the chibifying of characters, and if you're not versed in anime lingo, anime and manga lingo, that's when a character's body gets really small and their head gets really big. And it's another thing that turns off people from anime comedy and stuff like that. But I mean, as anime fans, we don't mind it.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And sometimes it can be overdone and it can get in the way of serious scenes. For example, we brought up it last week a little bit, Hellsing. Like,
there's just so much chibi scenes.
They just go into like weird art style where they get all like jaggedy and stuff. But tonally speaking, the chibifying of characters doesn't really ruin things by virtue of being chibifying. Just if it's in an inappropriate moment, then kind of kills the tension and build up in drama.
It's like, just one example I got from that is Heaven's Lost Property.
Okay.
The main guy in there, he is basically a Class A pervert, which is funny as crap. But he ends up finding this angel, or Angel Lloyd. She's kind of a cybernetic type angel, but she still has human emotions and stuff. Well,
I'll watch it at some point.
Her human emotions are kind of limited. She literally speaks everything monotone. But she grants him any wish that he wants. And weirdly enough, like, they don't so much go into much detail in a whole bunch about it, but she has like a choker around her neck, which has a chain, which you only see like maybe 4 or 5 links of it, but it turns out that is wrapped around his hand. But they can like make it invisible on his hand, the length of the chain, and only shows like maybe 4 or 5 clinks of the chain on her choker. So he's constantly pretty much attached to her. The chain can stretch for infinite, however long they want to be, forever how far apart. But just funny on that, like, when he first finds out about all that stuff, he's like, all right, freeze time. He's like, okay, just freeze the time. So, being the pervert that he is, he goes running to school, buck naked.
Of course.
With her flying behind him. And he just starts groping girls, going under the skirts, everything like that.
And this is all chibi?
All chibi.
Okay. Because I'll say, where's this fitting with chibi? Is this whole entire scene chibi?
Well, unless it's like a serious tone moment, almost every scene with him, he's a chibi.
Oh.
Like, everything, like, throughout
That's wacky.
It's hilarious, because, like, he'll be in the middle of class talking with his friends, and he's just, boom, he's a chibi. Yeah. But then, like, something serious happens, he goes back up. But even it's funny, because even as a chibi, nobody even reacts. It's just like, okay, you're just here. They don't even, it doesn't mind them that they're looking down, or they gotta look directly at him. It's just like, they don't matter a lot of times. And sometimes even the angeloids turn into chibis. Because just the scene kind of calls for it. Like, he'll be a chibi, he'll do a freaking infamous coffee table flip, and they're just chibis. Everybody's a chibi right there beside him. But most of the time, he's constantly a chibi.
Chibis everywhere.
Chibis everywhere.
Chibis for days. Yeah. But yeah, they can be fun. They can be overdone sometimes, but they're generally, nothing too offensive as a cliche, unless, once again, they kind of mess with the tone of what's going on in a serious moment or something.
Yeah.
And my final cliche for the romance genre of anime would be just the assault of men by women. Just another thing Japanese people just find hilarious, apparently, is just guys getting knocked on their ass by girls constantly for minor offenses, which isn't a huge exaggeration.
No, not really.
Whoa, that's kind of an offensive. I shouldn't say that. But
well, it depends on the extremity of the event.
Yeah, but like everything in comedy shows, a lot of the time it's anything they do. Just
But the thing that's like the most common cliche that I can't believe we did not think of is
for comedy.
For comedy,
for anything.
Comedy, for romance, or just about anything kind of like that, is always the infamous fall scene.
The infamous fall scene.
Where
it's kind of like for ecchi.
No, not even that.
It can be for anything.
But just like it always usually involves a guy and a girl protagonist.
And then they're running and they're not paying attention, and then boom, they bump into each other, and then somehow his face winds up somewhere it shouldn't, and then he gets beaten up.
Most often, it's not even his face; it's his hand.
Sometimes it's
his hand.
face.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes
to
it's
Loveru. It's his face.
But most of the time, it's always like they'll fall down the stairs or something. He'll just wake up like, what's going on? And then realize his hand is on her chest. Like she's on the ground, and he'll just try to stand up, and it's like, on that. And
Deserved, but not
instead of
really.
it's just like the slap, it's like the full-on send you straight through the wall punch.
Yeah.
And then just gets up like 2 minutes. It's like, what the hell was that for?
Yeah, so that goes for romance too, which is the next thing I was going to talk about.
Okay, then.
Romance. This is kind of a weird cliche, and it's really specific. These have been kind of like things that pop up all the time. I told Andrew about this one earlier, and he's like, I've only seen it happen a couple times, but I think it's still interesting enough to bring up. There's this, oh wow. there's this one cliche of girls just being late for their getting to school, getting to school, and to portray this, they always have them running to school with like a loaf of bread in their mouth. It's so ridiculous.
More of a toast, because like that means people are gonna be thinking like they're running with like a literal loaf of bread in their mouth.
They do sometimes. I'm just like, why?
Well, sometimes. Mostly it's a
Why?
piece of toast with jelly or
It's
something
such
on
a
it.
bizarre thing that pops up way more than it should.
Yeah.
Once again, bringing up Gintama because I always have to. They parody it. It's like they're doing a dating sim video game thing, and the girl's running to her school, but she has a full-blown swordfish in her mouth. And then she bumps into the main guy, and she drops the swordfish, and then it gets more ridiculous from there. He winds up pissing her off, and she stabs him with the swordfish.
That's always a cliche, though. They always do that. They always run into somebody, and then they always lose their stuff.
Yeah. But as far as like the biggest cliche with like romance series, and this is the exact opposite. This is a wider reaching thing. It's just the character archetypes in romance are really, really, really repeated a lot.
Yeah.
So there's like tsunderes, for example, are the type of girl who's like, I don't really like you. You're an idiot, but I really do like you. But she doesn't say it.
Just can't admit it.
Yeah, and that you see it all the time in all kinds of romance anime. It's everywhere.
Not even romance. Not even just romance.
Sometimes normal anime.
Yeah.
Normal anime. That was offensive to romance. I'm just being offensive today.
Yeah, jeez, what's wrong with you?
And then like the shy, stalkery type, like Hinata.
Yeah.
I'm gonna admire him from afar. He's so lovely, but I don't want to talk to him. Those are everywhere in romance anime.
Yep.
This is kind of a negative cliche because they need to branch out. People have more than 3 personalities. And then there's the yandere, which we were talking about Future Diary earlier, and that's like
Future
the
Diary
psycho...
has got one of the greatest yanderes
The greatest.
I've ever... Yeah, probably the greatest yandere I've ever seen. She is completely obsessed with the guy to the point... The show does involve a lot of killing, but to the point where she will kill anybody that even tries to talk to him.
Basically, just bitches be crazy.
Yeah, not even just trying to like talk, look, interact, say his name.
You can't. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, those are yanderes and tsunderes are hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for like romance and fan servicey stuff, we kind of forgot to like just the beach episode cliche. And
always
hot
a beach.
Spring, always a beach episode. Always a hot spring. You know, just got to get on there. Just show off more
another
skin.
one that involves like with romance and comedic and all that kind of stuff is. Always, like, if it's a female protagonist, they always are very well endowed.
Of course.
Very
or the exact opposite, whatever fetish they want to scratch.
Usually it's the other way.
Yeah, usually it's the other way. But sometimes like there's actually generally decent hot spring episodes and stuff that actually progress the plot, like Gurren Lagann.
Gurren Lagann does progress.
Gurren Lagann had a great hot spring episode.
Funny,
badass, cool fight.
Oh my god, it had almost every. Did it have it kind of had a slight bit of romance in it.
Yeah, well, everything was. Well, I'm not gonna say that, but that's a big spoiler. I don't want to just randomly spoil that. So was the romance between Kamina and Yoko? Let me ask that. You know the spoiler I'm getting at here. Was the spoiler? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was it like romance between Kamina and Yoko? You're talking about? I can't remember the episode too well.
No, it just kind of. I guess kind of because she did kind of say that she did kind of have feelings for him, and then just all that kind of stuff like that. So it didn't go much full on into the romantic type thing, but it hinted at it while mostly keeping it to the comedy, to almost all of the tropes.
Ah, I see.
And then the action, the giant mechs, and all that kind of shit, which is just epic.
Just watch Gurren Lagann is what you should be getting from this conversation.
Just watch Gurren Lagann.
Okay, so couple more genres that are a little more, I want to say, not like, not as common, but still have their fair share of cliches. The magical girl genre represented by Madoka Haname right here. But yeah, the magical girl genre, like Sailor Moon and whatnot, they are riddled with cliches. Like, it seems like almost every magical girl show has the same basic premise. Just random creature shows up, finds a bunch of girls, tells them, "You can save the world.
Become a magical girl.
Just become a magical girl and take this strange device that lets you transform." And then they have this cliche transformation sequence with spinning and sparkles and girly things that girls like. I always wanted to watch Sailor Moon. I gotta get around to it at some point. Because that's the originator of all these cliches. But yeah, and then their plots are usually pretty simple too. Just, kind of like just fighters of justice, destroying all the evil in the world. But because like the series, like it's such a, I guess, niche genre, it gets subverted a lot. As well, the next genre I'm about to talk about does too. But like the first big subversive show to really come out for Magical Girls was, once again, Madoka Magica. I brought these figures for a reason because I knew I was going to talk about this show. But yeah, so you take the normal girly, happy-go-lucky Magical Girl series and flip it on its head times a million. The little creature that comes up and asks them to slay evil isn't
devil incarnate.
Yeah, kind of fucking devil. He's just straight savage little evil man, and that's not much of a spoiler because it's pretty obvious that that's a twisted little cat thing that you don't want to mess with. All kinds of dark revelations. They basically take all the magical girl cliches and just turn them on their head and transforms into this crazy psychological series that's awesome. It has like a great plot, great characters, great fights. Recommend everyone to watch it. It's only 12 episodes. It's got a movie sequel. That's nice too.
That had two.
It has a movie like trilogy, but only the third one is like new content. The first two just recap the whole series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then the next genre is isekai, which is basically trapped in another world genre. Andrew talked about quite a few of them last week. But this is another one that most of them stem from like a really similar premise from one another. Just the main character, usually a dude, gets teleported into another world where he proceeds to usually be kind of overpowered. There's plenty of examples of, I guess, characters who aren't, like, super overpowered, but Kirito from Sword Art Online is the big example. He's just too OP. And then girls just, like, line up like, "Hey, you're the main character, right? Look, can we get in that?" And he's just like, "Yeah, sure."
But yeah, we want to join this main character harem.
Yeah, the main character harem just appears out of nowhere. So it's kind of a genre riddled with cliches a bit. And also, like, the setting of the game world is always, like, just a traditional fantasy setting, which kind of is sad because, since the isekai genre is so everywhere nowadays, you don't really get traditional fantasy anime as much. There's, like, one that came out recently called Made in the Abyss, and it's wonderful. But it's kind of like monopolized an entire subgenre of anime, which makes me a little bit sad.
Well, maybe after Made in Abyss, they'll start to work on branching it out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and that's the other genre that kind of gets subverted all the time. And another series I brought with me, ReZero, is an example of that because the main character is completely pathetic, and it's like a normal romance. There's only one girl he's interested in, and questionable if she's even interested in him. And it's really interesting. He dies and loses constantly, but he can come back to life. I don't want to go full blown into the plot yet or anything, but it's quite a subversion. There's another anime called Konosuba, who Andrew wants to watch, and it's just the isekai genre, but it's a comedy and it's silly and it doesn't take itself too seriously. But unlike the generic plot of most isekai shows, Overlord's a bit different than the norm. I mean, the main character is kind of overpowered, but
he's completely overpowered, but he doesn't like to flaunt his power.
Yeah, and he's just a skull man, which is already original enough, and the world and everything in that actually looks really interesting. It's just the cliches in the isekai genre kind of like bog it down a little bit. Like, it's hard to find a show that's completely original. And it's hard to find a show that's completely original in any genre, but it's just kind of riddled with them. And there's a reason for that, actually. Because the reason why there's so many Trapped in Another World shows is actually because in Japan, there's like a website for new up-and-coming writers where you can just throw your series on there and just attempt to get them published really quickly, and it seems like 90% of them or whatever are all trapped in Otherworld shows because it's easily relatable. You can self-insert into the main character, and it's really simple.
And it allows them the free will to create just worlds of their own. It's not, you don't have to follow some given guideline. You can make up your own existence, make your own rules.
Oh, and another thing, the main character always seems to either be like a nerd or someone who's really good at video games, because a lot of the times the trapped in another world things are always like based on video games. So they go in with this advanced knowledge of the game or
of games, not so much that game.
Of the tropes of the world. They already know everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my examples there as far as isekai genre goes. And that probably covers it for most of the genres I wanted to talk about with their cliches. But like, are cliches bad? Are they good? I think it kind of depends on the
depends on what you're in the mood for.
Because yeah, if you just want something just that is really appealing on a surface level, and you just want to see cool shit and with a bunch of stuff you like, without having to, like, you know, follow a complex plot. This sounds really negative, but it's really not. If you want something simple and fun, then, you know, cliches aren't a problem. And then they're cliches for a reason. I mean, the cliches themselves are not always necessarily bad. It depends on the cliche and how much it's used.
Yeah.
Give you a quick example. There's a series that came out recently called Black Clover, and I hate it. Let's be point blank here. I despise it.
Damn.
Yeah, it's not good. And some people think it is, but sorry, Black Clover fans. But it just, the reason I hate it is because it is not original at all. The main character is basically Naruto. He wants to be the wizard emperor.
Oh, okay.
And then you go in to, like, future arcs, and they have a guild like in Fairy Tail. But then they all behave like, the art style is similar to the Seven Deadly Sins.
Wow, so this is like every trope.
And then later, dungeons start popping up, and they have to conquer them to get magical items.
Wow.
Just like in Mag. I'm not even making this up.
Jeez, talk about every cliche.
Yeah, everything. And it's so an overabundance of cliches can just ruin things.
Yeah.
It started around the same time as My Hero Academia, which also starts a little cliche with, like, the main character wanting to be the best hero and everything, but it quickly branches off and becomes its own thing.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Japanese shows based on American superheroes aren't the most common thing anyway.
Yeah.
There's a couple, but like Tiger and Bunny, I want to watch that. But
yeah, I heard about that. I never get the chance to get it yet.
Apparently about American superheroes too.
Oh,
but
sweet.
Going to recommendations now. That about does it for the cliched topic, I suppose. Once again, it depends. It varies. No clear answer. I'm sorry I didn't give you a clear answer as to whether cliches were bad or not, but it's nuanced, and nuance is good. So here's my recommendations for this week, and they're all the subversive genre. Not really a genre. They're just subversive series that try to stray away from cliches. I'll explain why when I show them off. But here's One Punch Man. I'm sure everyone who's watching this podcast has at least heard of One Punch Man. Because it is hyper popular. Outside of Tokyo Ghoul and My Hero Academia, probably the best-selling manga in America right now. It sells bukus, outdoes Marvel Comics and everything, so you should have at least heard of One Punch Man. It's a pretty good show. I like it a lot. But yeah, basically, take the action show, all the action show stereotypes, you know, getting stronger over a long period of time and working to reach your end goal, fighting progressively stronger villains.
Being a superhero,
and just, you know, well,
Max
that doesn't get turned around. He's still a superhero.
Yeah, but you left that part out about him being a superhero.
But I was talking about things that it subverts.
How does being a superhero subvert it?
It's not. That's the point.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So you take all the things that you usually see, and then it's the opposite, because, you know, he beats everything in one punch.
Yeah.
He's already the strongest, and nothing.
He's bored.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. And he's bored of everything, and he wants a challenge, but he can't get one. So
because he can beat anything with one punch or crap. Sometimes
great theme song.
Sometimes he just can flick and he can beat someone.
But he can't beat a damn mosquito. That's for sure.
Yes.
Great gag in an early chapter/episode where he's just swatting at a mosquito.
He literally will
teleporting.
He smacks his face to try to kill the mosquito on his face. He's watering a plant with an elephant water. slaps, and you can see the sonic boom like shifts the water in the pail and as it's pouring to the side for like a few seconds, and then it comes back and he's just like, bzzz, he's like,
and then he fights a hot mosquito girl and he swats her. So that's good.
and then he's like, bugs suck.
But bugs suck. Oh god. But yeah, highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's silly, it's simple, but it's simple and silly in a good way in my opinion. So here's ReZero. Talked about it earlier. This is a light novel. So in other words, it's a book with only a couple pictures here and there. And we already talked about ReZero a little bit today, so I won't go into too much depth with it. But once again, it just subverts the overpowered guy in another world thing. He's still like an otaku. He still likes anime and manga, and he still knows. Like, he knows that he's in another world, but he actually isn't, like, surprised by it. He's like, oh, this is cool. My life sucks anyway, so I'm in another world now. Let's see what I can do. And then horrible things continue to happen to him, and he can die, and then he comes back, and he has to redo everything, and he gets psychologically messed up in the head. And it's really cool because a lot of series that have, like, the whole concept of dying and coming back don't really tackle the psychological aspect of it, because if you come back after being dead over and over and over again, you're going to lose your damn mind. Because no one else remembers it. And you're like, dude! I told you this yesterday.
I told you this.
This is important. It was great. Why aren't you remembering it? And it takes him forever. It takes him a while to figure it out that it's even happening because he dies, and he's just like, whoa, I'm back. But it's really interesting. Really, like I said, subverts a lot of things. He's really weak. He has to get through everything with his wits and intelligence instead of just being an overpowered asshole like Kirito. whoa, that got personal for a minute.
Really did.
I'm not a sword art fan, if you can't tell.
Apparently not.
And finally, the final recommendation, which we've already talked about. Once again, this is a DVD, and not only is it a DVD, it's probably a DVD that may or may not be pirated. Because I didn't know it at the time, but when I bought it online, it was kind of cheap, and I'm like, wow, Madoka's never cheap. This is an expensive series. The people who license this are jerks and want to squeeze everything out of your wallet. It's only 12 episodes, but here it is for cheap, and then I got it, and this case doesn't look very official.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese case.
It's
got one disc, but it has all 12 episodes on it, so it is
Yeah, it's definitely if it has one disc.
So I'm recommending you to watch this, but I'm not recommending you to buy it. Go find a streaming site. Not a streaming site, like an official streaming site. Go find, like, Crunchyroll.
Something
Netflix, you can watch this on without buying the DVD because it's too damn pricey. But yeah, once again, I'm not going to go far into this one. We already talked about it, but the standard Magical Girl stuff, just darker, twisted, messed up, and really good. Really good. And I don't watch many Magical Girl shows. Like, there's another one called Magical Girl Raising Project, which tries to do the same thing as Madoka, but makes it more of like a death game kind of thing. And it's okay. But Madoka did it better, because it's good. I'm kind of a Madoka tard.
Yeah,
it's a good show. But, yeah. So, I think that does it for any recommendations I have. Do you have a recommendation of any kind today?
I might have two. One of them is, I think we mentioned it earlier with the Yandere thing, is Future Diary.
Yeah.
I can't really explain too much about that without possibly leading to spoilers because of all that.
But it's very interesting.
It's a very interesting and kind of a killing type show where you have to kill people, and you have a phone that basically can predict the future, and there's 12 contestants.
And all the phones do different types of predicting the future.
Yes. Like, one's helps people escape. The other just tells you about their day, what they're going to be doing. One keeps tabs on another. One can just... Well, they all can do different things. There's 12 people of them, and the reason that they're doing this and killing people is because...
They want to become God.
They want to become God. Like, literal God, Deus Ex Machina is the guy's name. Basically says, okay, I'm dying, I need a successor. So, whichever one of you is the last one alive gets my job. And so everybody's like, well, okay, then crap, hell yeah, I want to become God.
Yeah, we won't go too much into spoilers, but yeah, it's a good show.
But yeah, and then, like we said, it has the Psycho Yandere.
Yeah.
Which is definitely worth watching because she is nuts.
Just to see her antics.
Yeah, just to see her antics. Yeah. And another one that's kind of a little bit on the comedic, the action, and the romance type one.
So everything we talked about.
Yeah, is...
It's also a Magical Girl Isekai show. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, not really. Although they do kind of like cosplay type shit, so does that count?
No, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll leave it at that.
Is defrag or defrag?
I don't know anything about this, so go for it.
Basically, this guy just is going to school. He's pretty much a self-proclaimed thug, and he just wants everybody at school to fear him and all that kind of shit. And it's funny because he's the leader of a gang called the Kazuma Gang.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because his name is Kazuma.
Of course.
And when everybody's like going through, like they see them walking through, they know the other two members. They know the name of the gang, but they don't know his name.
Ah.
And then the classic thing of the screaming, everything. He's just like, "How do you not know my name? It's the name of the freaking gang!"
I'm motherfucking Kazuma.
Yeah, pretty much. And then he ends up finding this group of people that kind of think that they're kind of magical girl type things because they think that they have elemental powers.
I like how it did tie into it, though.
They think they have elemental powers. Like, the one girl thinks that she's an earth elemental, so she's always out playing in a sandbox or carrying mud in her pockets.
Oh, wow.
One thinks she's a water elemental, so she always has a bottle of water
Just dumps
around.
on people.
Dumps on people and just all kind and like apparently can make you forget things by making you chug the water.
That does sound funny.
The other one's an electric elemental, which guess what her weapon is?
A plug.
No, she carries a taser, which
okay.
is actually a legit weapon.
I guess you can't use a plug if there's nothing to plug it into.
Yeah.
So that was a bad guess.
And the other one is a fire elemental.
And she just burns. She's like a pyromaniac.
Not so much a pyromaniac, but she just thinks that she uses a lot of fire. Sometimes she uses fireworks, but nothing like drastic. But apparently that's just a cover for her being a true element of darkness.
Oh.
And it's just hilarious because it has chibis. It has everything.
It's everything we talked about, but it's actually really good. So
it's good. It's hilarious. It has a lot of the screaming, a lot of the just everything about it is just so dumb. It even fourth wall breaks.
Good.
Like it fourth wall breaks out the ass.
All day, every day.
But it's just hilarious. So many things with characters, like with the well-endowedness, the flatness, and just something else.
Everything we've talked about today.
Everything
in
we've
this
talked
show.
about. Yes.
Good. Besides Isekai, so
Yeah. That's the only thing that it does not cover.
Okay.
But
that's most of it though. So,
those are my two recommendations for this week.
Cool story, bro. I like them. So yeah, that's pretty much been the podcast today, guys. I hope you learned something and found it fun. We've been Animankai. Yo, simultaneous. Dang, we're getting fancy with our outros, man.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Planet, as you probably know at this point.
And I'm Andrew Sefton.
It's been fun. Keep it squirrely. The squirrel was magic!